What's up, guys? Wanted to come to you and talk to you about why I hate episodes 7 and 8. Which, if you don't know the numbering, that's The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Now, I've already done a video of why I hate The Last Jedi, so that's already kind of known, and I imagine most people know. I think most people hated that movie, especially most Star Wars fans. But you'd be like, why do you hate Episode 7? What's wrong with The Force Awakens? And most people are like, oh, I love that movie. I was like, well, there's a very specific reason why I hate it. I think it's a good movie. I just don't like it. And here's why. Because it doesn't fit in what I believe is canon. So, you ask, well, Jonathan, what do you think is canon? Well, I'll tell you. I go by the Lucas canon. So, plus Rogue One, and maybe Rebels. Pretty much anything that I like, I put in there. Anything that contradicts fundamentally the Lucas canon, I say no, it's not in the canon. So, like I think I've mentioned it before about, I've definitely talked to people about it, about Lucas, about Darth Vader current comic book series where he, in order to turn his lightsaber red, I don't know if you could hear that thunder. That was loud. In order to turn his saber red, he had to make it bleed through the Force. I thought that was really cool. But I was like, why didn't he just go get a red crystal? Because lightsaber crystals weren't rare, then anybody would be building a lightsaber. So there's that. But so maybe the easiest way for him is to make it bleed in the Force, and I thought that was a pretty cool imagery. But anyways, so I grew up before episode 1 through 3 came out. So I was the generation after the people who watched the original trilogy in the theaters. My dad talks about when the Star Wars came out, A New Hope, that he went and watched it all day in the theater, because back then you were, I guess, at the theater he was at, you could go pay once and just watch all day. And I was like, man, I wish I was born. I could see A New Hope in the theater, so it would have been awesome. But yeah, so that's. But I was born after that. I was born 80s, late 80s, very end, and so I grew up with the original trilogy on VHS, and so I remember one of my fondest memories is me and my dad both got sick at the same time, so he got to stay home from work and I got to stay home from school, and he put on the original trilogy, and we just sat around the house all day watching the original trilogy, and I loved it. It was great. Great bonding time with dad, and got to watch Star Wars. I mean, what better way to spend your day, right? So the greatest movies of all time, in my humble but accurate opinion. But anyways, so I grew up with that, and then as soon as I started reading, I started reading Star Wars books. I mean, that was just a natural progression. And I'll say, like, I call myself a huge extended universe guy. But honestly, I'm a slow reader, so I haven't read as much as some people have. But I've always felt a deep connection with the extended universe because that's what I grew up with. It'd be like people who grew up with the original trilogy. If the original trilogy was thrown out, I mean, that would be chaotic, and that's how I feel about Disney. So I grew up, reading a lot of the Star Wars books. Actually, the reason I got into superheroes and comic books was because of Star Wars. I started reading Star Wars comic books. I was like, this is a thing, Star Wars comics. I was like, awesome. So, like every year on mission trips, we went to the malls. The only time we went to the mall, I'd save up my money all year, and I'd go buy a big collection of Dark Horse Star Wars books, comic books. I was always so excited. And in high school, I started checking out a bunch of Star Wars books that were being written for teenagers, and read a bunch of those. And for Christmas, like everybody knew that they should buy me like the new Star Wars book. So I was excited. So I got like Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 2, Star Wars Episode 3. I got Star Wars Clone Wars, The Cestus Deception. I was really excited about that because it had Yoda and Kit Fisto, or not Yoda, Kit Fisto on it, and he was looking awesome. And I actually bought Shatterpoint much later. But yeah, so I love them. That's how I got to know Anakin and Tahiri and Anakin Solo, and I loved it. I read some of the episode when episode 1 came out. Man, I was ecstatic. I loved it. I know most people hated it, but I was a little kid. I thought Jar Jar Binks was hilarious, and I understand why people didn't like him, but I've always enjoyed the goofy sidekick that can't do anything right and is clumsy. I've always thought that was funny, and I understand some people don't like it. Whatever, that's fine. I wouldn't say that he ruined Star Wars by any means. I'll tell you what ruined Star Wars was the bad writing. I mean, Episode 2. The writing is terrible. I mean, I love George Lucas. George Lucas, thank you for all you've done for us, how you've changed everything. But Episode 2, the writing was not good. Episode 3 was better, but it wasn't as good as the rest. Everybody hates Episode 1, and the reason everybody hates Episode 1 is because of Jar Jar Binks, but it really is a good movie. Like he uses a bunch of practical effects. He has Darth Maul, which is awesome. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. You have Liam Neeson in the Star Wars universe, and you're telling me it's the worst movie? No. You have Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu? No. Get out of here. You have Yoda show back up? Get out of here. Those are awesome. Darth Maul is one of the best Sith ever. He's awesome. The fact that we had like a martial artist fighting as a Sith Lord, I tell you, when people saw him, they're like, "Oh, the devil! It's the devil! He's the devil!" And then he had that dual blade pop out. Everybody flipped out when that happened. Flipped out. The world went crazy. Went crazy when that movie came out, or when that trailer came out, and they saw him ignite both sides. Just everyone went crazy. Their minds were blown. My mind was blown. I remember collecting all the stuff for Episode 1, and I remember when Episode 3 movie the DVD came out. I went to the store the day of and bought it. I was super excited. I was like, "This is a movie I'll never get tired of." And of course, I got tired of it because I'm an adult now, and things get boring after a while. But I do love Star Wars, and I do love all 6 original movies. But why I don't like 7? Okay, so I've had all this history, getting to know these characters, and I played a lot of the video games. So I played one of my first Star Wars video games was Dark Forces 2, and I loved it. Kyle Katarn goes from being a kind of a bounty hunter, smuggler type guy to basically a Han Solo type character to being a Jedi. It was so cool. Follows after his father. Man, I love that. In fact, I think on my Facebook, I have Kyle Katarn as my background, like him holding the lightsaber. It's pretty sweet because I used real actors in the original, in those games, the computer games. But man, I loved it, and I played the Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. I played all the original Battlefronts. Battlefront 2 is my favorite, not the new one, the original Battlefront 2. I love that. Then KOTOR, amazing game. For those of you who don't know, Knights of the Old Republic. And the second one was good too. It really goes into like the essence of the dark side. Amazing. Both of them are great games. The first one, KOTOR, 1 is probably the best game I've ever played. I love it. I know if I'm gonna think critically, I'm gonna say it might be in the top 5, but for me, it's the best game ever made. I love it. I love it because I love Star Wars. And then suddenly Disney buys the franchise. I was like, all right, because I was like, George Lucas was hesitant about using the or making the new movies because he was afraid he'd be dead by the time. But George Lucas, you were wrong. You should have made those movies. They would have been amazing. And I think ultimately it was because the fans, well, not real fans, flipped out and blamed him for everything. And man, it all happened at the breaking point of the internet. So when the internet really kicked off, everybody got onto all those chat rooms and started dissing, well, Jar Jar Binks, but Star Wars in general, about how bad it had become, and it became the new trend. Everybody gets on these bandwagons, and I can't imagine what it was like to be George Lucas, to say like they ruined his childhood and all that kind of stuff. Are you kidding? Like George Lucas made my childhood. It was amazing. I loved it. And my favorite director of all time, hands down. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, those two alone. Anyways, so huge Star Wars fan, and but the internet struck, and I think they scared him. I think he just got tired, and I think he just said, you know what, I'm gonna give you what you want. Which is never a good thing, because fans don't know what they want. So he sells it to Disney for like billions of dollars. Best thing Disney ever did for their money, for their wallet. And they almost immediately announced Star Wars Episode 7. So everybody was excited. I was excited. I was like, all right, we're getting Episode 7 through 9. Here we go. And then they announced a bunch of other movies. But then tragedy struck, and you might know what I'm going to say. They threw out the entire extended universe. Here's what they said: the only thing that's canon is the original 6 movies and the Clone Wars cartoon. And I was petrified. I hated it. My heart broke. I was like, Star Wars is dead. All of my love of Star Wars is gone. And no, I wasn't that tragic, but I was devastated. I was like, all these characters that I love are now not canon. They're not even gonna say. I was like, well, what's Episode 7 gonna be about? One of my first reactions was anger and rage. I was like, you can't, this isn't Marvel, because Disney had already bought Marvel and put out some Marvel movies. I was like, this ain't Marvel. You don't just come in and erase our history. Marvel can reboot itself as many times as it wants. DC can reboot itself as many times as it wants, because it's comic books. It started in comic books. It's always going to be comic books. It's always going to be comic booky. Now, Star Wars may have spread into comic books, but Star Wars is a movie series that expanded into books. So it's movies and books, also video games and comics, but it's mainly the movies. That's its heart. And you don't just erase its history. There's a huge history. Now, given that contradicts itself all the time, and when you have different writers and stuff, whatever. But it never really contradicted its core characters. The main self was not contradictory. In fact, what you would do is, to avoid contradiction, you'd spread it out over millennia, which was awesome. So we had old Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, and then you had all sorts of stories, built around that. And then you had post Episode 4 through 6, and that was amazing. Some of my favorite characters are there: Kyle Katarn, Anakin Solo, Jason Solo, Jaina Solo, Tahiri. I love them. Luke Skywalker, Mara Jade. I love them. Even Ben Skywalker. Great. Why destroy it? Why destroy all that history, rich history? Um, and yeah, I love those characters. Those are really deep characters for me. I grew up reading about them. I grew up with all that, and now Disney has just come and erased it. They're like, oh, well, none of that actually really happened. And now it's legends. I was like, listen, Disney, I don't care about you. I don't care about your canon. It's not going to be canon to me. Anything, basically, I've come to the point where I say, hey, whatever Disney contradicts the what I consider canon, which is started off with Lucas canon, and then anything that doesn't contradict with that. Anything that you make that contradicts what I see as canon, Lucas canon, I'm going to say is actually legends, or just fan fiction. It's not canon to me. I don't care. You can say whatever you want to. Oh, well, they own it. They own the rights. I don't care who owns the rights. It's not going to be canon to me. It never will be. I will never say episode 7 and 8 are canon because it breaks the canon. It breaks what I see as canon. Disney does not have the right. They might have the legal right, but they don't have the moral right to come in here and tell me what is and isn't Star Wars canon, because they didn't create it. They bought the franchise so they could make the movies, but make the movies according to the already established canon. Don't come in here and erase it all. I know they did it for money, and that's not a good motive. I mean, just make canonical videos. That's all our movies and stories. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking. I want canonical stories. Add to it. There's so much that has not been talked about in Star Wars. There's so much space, thousands and millions of years, that could be talked about all throughout the Star Wars universe. But instead they say, oh no, let's erase all the characters that we don't care anything about, that all the fan base cares about, or at least the extended universe fans care about, and we'll just do this so we can make some money. Well, forget you, Disney. I don't care. I'll go watch the movies, because whatever. But they're Star Wars. Rogue One, amazing. Fit right, just like a glove in the original trilogy. I love it. Beautiful. Amazing movie. Star Wars Episode 7 immediately contradicts the entire canon. Han and Leia break up? Are you kidding me? No, get out of here. That ain't Han and Leia. Chewbacca comes up and walks right past Leia after Han Solo's death? No, that ain't Chewbacca. Get out of here. Chewie's a big softy. You don't even know the characters you're using. If you can't write the characters right, why would I want to say that that's canon? No, that's stupid. Stupid talk. Chewie would have gone immediately to Leia and hugged her. Immediately. Why? Because Chewie's a big softy. He's emotional. He gets emotional about these things. Especially with Han's death. She knows Han's dead. He knows Han's dead. First thing he's going to do is go hug her and say, I'm sorry, basically. In Wookiee language. And she might have to do more consoling to him than the other, but no, you watch the movie, he just walks right past, so that they can get their Leia and Rey moment. Well, why would Rey care about Han Solo? She's known him for a couple of days. Han Solo or Chewbacca has been with him for years. Of course, Chewbacca is going to be mourning. Just drives me nuts. And then, of course, you got Ben's Solo. I was like, no, Ben is Skywalker. Ben was the name of Luke Skywalker's son when he marries Mara Jade, not Han Leia's. They didn't barely know Ben. Why would they care anything about the name Ben? No, they use Anakin. Why? Because that's her grandfather. She names her son after her grandfather, his grandfather. Her father. She names him after her father, who she knows. So, yeah, it makes no sense. Anakin Solo is the right name, not Ben Solo. Get out of here. But Han wouldn't leave Leia. I mean, he might be brash and do his own thing and be kind of a loner, but I think what's important about the original trilogy is that he changes. He sees importance outside of himself and his own gains. And that changes him. So he's no longer somebody who would run away from those he loves, his friends. He cares about his friends. Uh, Before he tries, he'll uh, he'll hurt anybody. He'll do anything to anybody, as long as it benefits him. But he doesn't care about people except for Chewie. Uh, but after the original trilogy, Han Solo cares about people, and especially Luke and Leia, and even 3PO and R2 and Lando. I mean, they're his friends. He starts to care about them, which develops his character. Han Solo wouldn't run away from them. Don't even get me started on Luke. I did a video. That's not Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker would never give up on his nephew. I don't care how many years he would always try to. He would never try to kill his nephew, especially a nephew named after Ben Kenobi. Never. It's not gonna happen. Luke Skywalker would always see the best in people and try to find the light side in people. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So get out of here with that. No. That's not Luke Skywalker on the film. I don't care. I don't care what you say, how much money you make. I don't care. You can't tell me. I'm not in charge, so I can't change anything, but I have my pride. I can say, hey, I don't care what you say. I'm going to believe what I know is true. So anyways, one of my best friends loves episode 7, and we both mutually hate episode 8, but I wouldn't mind a reboot. But that establishes the real canon as opposed to this Disney fake canon. But he loves episode 7, and I think that's because it's a fan film. It's not really a unique story. It's pretty much a copy paste of episode 4. And everything that happens in episode 4, you can trace it down the line for episode 7. Now it looks amazing. I'm just gonna say it looks amazing. And I want to like it. I like Finn character. He's awesome. The Rey character is okay. She would have been better if she had more development. The Maz character, she's awful. Terrible. Like, there's nothing to her. Like, she's the MacGuffin of the film. Like, she's only there because she has to be there. Like, but you want us to think of her like a new Yoda? Get out of here. She's not. She's nowhere near Yoda. Yoda's character, he may have been somewhat of a MacGuffin, but when you got there was depth to him. But one of her lines in episode 7 is, "I don't have time to explain that. You better go." And then they talk for another minute and then leave. And I'm like, that's the laziest writing I've ever heard of. But it looked good. The movie looked really good, so I'll give you that. But it didn't explain why Rey was able to use the Force suddenly, really effectively without any training. Luke couldn't even do that. Luke had to be trained by Obi-Wan before he could use the Force. I understand why Finn could fight with a sword because he's a stormtrooper, so he probably has been trained by the Empire, as I'm going to call them, because I don't remember their real name. Was it First Order, maybe? He's trained by the Empire to fight with probably all sorts of weapons as a basic rule, so he can pick up anything and fight with it and somewhat survive. But it makes no sense with Rey. Like, how's she able to use the Force so effectively on the first draw? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And there's no character development for her. I want to like her. I think it would have been better if she had been like as part of Luke Skywalker's academy. That would have been way better. We see Kyle Katarn and Mara Jade and Jason and Jaina, Anakin Solo, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, but that's why I hate episode 7 and 6. It's not canon. It doesn't fit in the right canon. I told my friend who loves episode 7 that I like it as a movie. It's a fun movie, but what I hate about it is that it breaks my canon. So it breaks my heart. So it's like a slap in the face to the Star Wars that I have loved for 20 plus years. I hate it. I hate that they've done that to me. I mean, this is the universe I've grown up with, and they've changed everything about it. You know, I don't mind change. I don't mind new characters. Star Wars was always giving us new characters, new and exciting characters. That doesn't bother me. What they've done is erased my favorite characters, the good characters, and brought in all these new characters that are hollow, that don't really have any development, and trying to force me to love them. I don't Get out of here. That's not Star Wars. That's not my Star Wars. I don't care. You do what you want. I don't care. If it breaks, what I'm gonna see is the real canon, it's not gonna. I'm not gonna consider it Star Wars. So right now, I'll take Rebels, mostly because I hadn't seen it. But if it was the same people who did Clone Wars, probably really good. Because Clone Wars is amazing. But Rogue One was amazing. I really love that. Fit perfectly like a glove. The only thing I question about it is there's no Bothans, at least that I could see. So they kind of got around that, but I'm like, okay, it was a good enough movie to justify liking it enough. But a little plot hole in there that they've created. They avoided a bigger plot hole from episode 4, but then made a different plot hole. Like, where's the Bothan spies that died? Like, Bothans are an alien race. Like, where are they? But it's Disney. They don't care about, canon and stuff. But anyways, so let me know what you think. That's why I hate Star Wars Episode 7 and 8, because they really feel like a slap in the face to everything that I've loved for the last 20 plus years, and they're really just shaming the name of Star Wars and breaking the canon that I love and the canon that I accept. So I try to make exceptions for things as well as they'll fit in the original canon, in the real canon. But I can only go so far. So that's my thoughts on that. I know this is a really long video, but let me know what you think. Do you like the new Disney canon? Do you like the old Disney canon, or the old original the actual canon? Do you hate both of them? Let me know what you think. Anyways, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.